All right, welcome back. Episode 21. 5 more questions to help you tackle that Network Plus exam. Let's get into it. You'll notice that I've got a little bit of congestion going on, so I apologize in advance for that. But let's see if we can't get through it. Number one, a technician troubleshoots an internet connection issue for a residential customer using a cable modem. The modem is powered on, but the customer reports intermittent connectivity. What is the most likely cause? What is the most likely cause of that intermittent connection in a residential environment? Do you remember? Remember, we've only want to spend 30 to 45 seconds on these questions. We really don't have a lot of time. Very, very easy on Network Plus to run out of time. And so we got to be quick. We got to be smooth. We got to go through it, and then we have to answer it and move on. We cannot dilly-dally. We cannot waste a lot of time on these questions. And so get used to that. Get used to that. You can always flag the question on the top right-hand side. It will give you an opportunity to come back to it. But regardless of the flagging, you still need to answer it. You still need to answer it, because if you don't, then it's automatically wrong, right? If we can at least guess at it, we have a 25% chance of getting it right if we run out of time. 50% if we can remove 2 of those answers. And of course, if we can remove all 3 wrong answers, then we know that it is correct. And so we have a 100% chance, right? But let's answer this one. Let's start with a D, expired DHCP lease. Well, DHCP lease really wouldn't conscrew with a cable modem, right? Not from that perspective. Because it would cause a loss of connectivity all the way together if we went that route. And so it really doesn't make sense. This one is on the one side, why would DHCP be on the system at all? Because that would be a private IP address, usually using static. But in the case that we use a dynamic IP addressing for our actual modem, having it expire would lose all connection. So that can't be a good answer. Faulty Ethernet cable, likely result in complete loss of connection. Likely, not really. It could be intermittent issues. It could, right? So definitely up there. But usually when we talk about a faulty Ethernet cable, you're not having some connection unless you're moving the cable, in which case it's got a little problem on it. That may pose an issue. I'm just going to rule out C. I'm just going to rule it out. That leaves us A and B. A and B, if you are unsure, it's going to be one of those. It's going to be either A or it's going to get B. I'm going to give you a second to pick that last minute answer before we move on. What do you think? All right. If you picked A, incorrect IP address configuration, well, that would prevent all connectivity. So it must be B. It must be B, signal interference from a nearby device. This is typical of what we may see of the available answers. Is it the best available answer? No. There are better answers out there, but this is how CompTIA works, right? It's never usually the best answer. It's usually the second or even third best answer that is published on there to allow us to actually have a chance of answering it. In this case, the answer is going to be B. There we go. New circles today. There we go. All right, question number 2. Company wants to secure access to its GSM mobile network. That's, well, I'm not going to tell you what that is. We'll get into that in a second. Which of the following methods is most effective for preventing unauthorized access? What do you think for that GSM mobile network? Man, I'll tell you what. Having a congestion just sucks when you're trying to teach class or do anything like this on YouTube. I tried to put it off. As long as I could, but yeah. Green tea, always the beneficial. All right, let's answer this one. A company wants to secure access to a GSM, global standard for mobile network, that's cellular. Which of the following methods is most effective for preventing unauthorized access? Implementing WPA2 on all devices. That's not mobile, that's Wi-Fi. So we get rid of that one. Enabling SIM card authentication. Ooh, SIM card authentication, definitely something on the mobile network, maybe. C, using MAC address filtering. Well, it could prevent some security. It definitely could. Definitely a maybe on this one. So B and C so far are top ones. Setting up a VLAN. We really don't normally use VLANs in a GSM network. That's not really a thing. So it really comes between B and C. B and C on this one. I'll let you take a guess at this one. There we go. All right. If you need more time, of course, pause the video. If you guessed B, enable SIM card authentication, you'd be 100% correct. So why? Because it ensures that only authorized users with a valid SIM card can access our network. And this is a key security function of GSM. B is going to be our correct answer on this one. Question number 3. During that network analysis, AU reviewed traffic logs and noticed repeated unauthorized access attempts to a specific server at unusual hours. Which action should be taken to mitigate this threat? What do you think? What access should be taken to mitigate this threat? Remember, 30 to 45 seconds. That's all we've got. All we got. We really don't want to spend a lot of time on these questions. I know you're going to hear me hammer this down a lot more as we go through. You really got to go boom, 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 done. The last time I took Network Plus, I was surprised. I had 90 questions, 5 of which were PBQs. And so if I did not spend that 30 to 45 second rule, I would have missed probably all my PBQs. And so we gotta be quick. We gotta be quick on it. All right, let's answer this one. Let's start with A. Change the server's IP address. Possible. This could definitely help us, right? With unauthorized access attempts, because we change the IP address, then they don't have anything to connect to. So maybe. Enable port mirroring on the switch. Of course, port mirroring is used for monitoring traffic, but it doesn't really prevent unauthorized access, does it? Not really, right? We use port mirroring for different aspects, but not really something for prevention of access. Implement an ACL to restrict access. Of course, we can implement an access control list. And an access control list can do us a lot of different things, and it definitely controls access into our system, so maybe. A and of course C are our top ones so far. And then increase bandwidth allocation. Why would we increase bandwidth allocation? Bandwidth allocation would be authorized users, right? More people, maybe we're having congestion. That's not the case. We have unauthorized access. And so it really comes between A and C on this one. I'll give you a second to figure out which one you like better, A or C. Well, if you guessed A, change the server's IP address, well, that would be a temporary fix. And a short-lived temporary fix as that. So C is the only great answer on here. Implementing that access control list will definitely restrict access. Help us with those unauthorized access attempts. So C is going to be our correct answer on this one. Moving on, question number 4. Which of the following best exemplifies the principle of least privilege? You remember the principle of least privilege, don't you? What do you think? No, I'm not going to tell you what it is until we answer it. That's when we'll talk about that. Give you about... This one should be quick. This one should be really quick. You should have this one in 30 seconds or less. You really should. Not an overly difficult question. If you remember what it is. And this is why you got to know the content. You have to. You have to know the content. Now let's answer this one. Which of the following best exemplifies the principle of least privilege? Let's start with A, granting full access, administrative access, to all users. Is that the principle of least privilege? Maybe. I'm going to put A as a possible. B, providing read-only access to a database for entry-level employees. Is that a principle of least privilege? Maybe. I like this one too. Maybe. C, allowing guest users to install software on corporate devices. That would be administrative access. I'm not sure the principle of least privilege really goes into that one. Do we really want to allow everybody to be able to install software on our corporate devices? I would say no. So C, probably not the right answer. Enabling root access for all system administrators. Ooh. Do we want to allow root access for all system administrators? So far we have A, B, and D. A, B, and D being our best ones. I'm going to get rid of A. Let's get rid of A. Granting full administrative access to all users. I feel like we can get rid of that one. All right, that leaves between B and D. B and D are our top answers on this one. I'll give you about 5 seconds to figure out which one you like better. Is it B or is it D if you got the first set wrong? Well, if you said B, providing read-only access to database for entry-level employees, you would be correct. 100% correct. Why? Least privilege exemplifies that idea that you're only going to have access to what you need access to do your job. So does every administrator need root access? No, not every system administrator needs root access. And so if that's the case, then our principle of least privilege, of course, means giving only users minimum access level. A is going to be our best answer on this one. Or I'm sorry, not A, B. I can't talk today. B. All right, question number 5. A technician is using a fiber light meter to diagnose connectivity issues. What measurement is the technician most likely trying to determine? What are we trying to determine with that light meter? What do you remember about this one? I know. The Network Plus is a difficult exam. It really is. There is a lot of data to go over. A lot of people ask me in cybersecurity which one I would tend to go towards first if I was doing cyber. Because that's obviously my bread and butter, right? Which one do I like better? I like Security Plus better for an entry level. I think it's an easier exam. I really do. If you pass Network Plus, and you haven't done Security Plus yet, I think going into Security Plus next would be a valid response, a valid pathway. Why? Because I got to tell you, I think Network Plus is a harder exam. I really do. I don't think Security Plus is really that difficult compared to Network Plus. Let's go ahead and answer this one though. A technician is using a fiber light meter to diagnose connectivity issues. What measurement is the technician most likely to determine? Signal wavelength, right? Measured a different tool like a spectrum analyzer. Spectrum analyzer would measure the signal wavelength. Not something we would see with a light meter. Not with a light meter. Okay. Signal attenuation. I like signal attenuation. Is that correct answer? Maybe. Data transmission speed with a fiber line. Could the light meter detect data transmission speed? Maybe. That's another good one. B and C being our top ones. And of course, signal to noise ratio. Signal to noise ratio is understanding where a signal, usually RF, permeates across the thing. Not really a fiber thing with signal to noise ratio, although we do utilize it, I believe, in fiber. I'm not a big fan of fiber. I don't really use it all that much. My background is mostly in RF. I would tell you that signal to noise ratio is definitely an RF principle. I'm not sure if it's a fiber principle. I'll have to look that one up. But we have a baseline of noise on the ground floor. That's all the background electricity, all the background noise per se. And then our signal, where does it spike in? And so S and R, signal to noise ratio, not really something that is associated with a light meter, though. Pretty sure about that one. All right, that's going to be between B and C then. B or C. I'll give you about 5 seconds to re-guess in case you got it wrong. Does a light meter do signal attenuation? Or does it do something else? Does it do something else? Well, if you said signal attenuation, you'd be correct, right? Primarily used to measure the amount of signal loss or attenuation in a fiber optic cable. Now you're probably thinking to yourself, oh, question 5, that's our last question. So nope, I got a second one for you. I got number 6 this week. Why? I felt like it was too easy this week. So I wanted to do something a little bit more. I wanted to expand it out by one. All right, let's do something a little bit different this time. You are a network administrator investigating a connectivity issue on a web server. You analyze the server's firewall logs and discover the following entries. Which action would be best to mitigate the issue of unauthorized access attempts you are detecting? And we have a little bit of a log here. A little bit of a log. I know, I'm being a little bit tricky this week. Here's our log. I'm going to give you a few minutes to read through this. And by a few minutes, what I'm really going to say is I want you to pause the video. I want you to pause the video because if you don't pause the video, then we're probably going to go too fast for you. You're probably not going to be able to do it. This is typical of something I might see on a PBQ where we provide a log access to you. Now, would the questions be a PBQ? No, but understanding how to read this log would be part of that PBQ. Let's answer this one. If you need to, pause the video. All right, let's look at this log, right? We have our date and timestamp right here. We have our source IP. We can see we have multiple sources, right? We have 1.25, 45, 25, 45, and then .30 down here. We can see the destination IP address all matches, and we can see the port number 80, 22, 443, 22, and 3389. This is where understanding those ports come in handy. So I'm assuming you got your answer, so we're going to go over this real quick. Port 80 HTTP, SSH, 443 is HTTPS, 22 SSH, and then 3389 RDP, right? And so we need to know what those are in order to understand what's going on and how to answer this question. So let's dive into it, right? You are a network administrator investigating a connectivity issue on a web server. You analyze the web server's firewall logs and discover the following entries. Which action would best mitigate the issue of unauthorized access attempts are detected? And so we need to understand that we're detecting unauthorized access attempts on, of course, 22 right here. We see denied, and 3389 were denied, but it looks like 443 and port 80 were both allowed. So we need to understand what's going on here. All right, so let's start with increase the bandwidth to handle incoming connections. No, we are not going to do that. Why? Because we're analyzing the firewall logs to discover the following entries. Which action would best mitigate the issue of unauthorized access attempts? We're trying to mitigate unauthorized access attempts, not congestion. And so A, not a valid answer. B, allow traffic on port 22 for secure communications. Do we want to allow access on port 22? Because the firewall right now is blocking it. It's blocking it. And so maybe, but I would argue no. It doesn't really make sense. It doesn't make sense to allow connections, especially given the question, which is unauthorized access attempts. Remember, read the question. What is the question asking me? In this case, it's which action would best mitigate the issue of unauthorized access attempts. We're trying to stop unauthorized access attempts. We're already blocking port 22. It's already there. C, open port 3389 to allow remote access. And the same principle for B kind of goes with C, which means that D must be the correct answer. Block all traffic from IP address 192.168.45. Why? Well, if we look at 4.5, we see that boom, we've got denied, and then boom, we have denied. So it's trying to access on port 22, and that would be the only one that makes sense. Do I like the answer? Is it the best answer I could come up with? No, it's not. Right? We're coming from an internal IP address to an internal IP address, so I would try to figure out what's going on with this system. But that's not an option. That's not an option. Since it's not an option, the only one of these that makes sense is block all traffic. And so that's going to be our answer with this one is going to be D. I hope you guys found this useful. As always, I'm Dr. K. We'll see you next time. Have a good one.